Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Twisted Koi live on Sunday afternoon. I do apologise, Cupcakes, but I've been having a nightmare with StreamYard for the last 10 minutes. I'm almost pulling my fucking hair out. That's why I put my hat back on, because my hair's all over the place. But how are we doing out there, folks, on this lovely Sunday afternoon? I did hope to have Ken from My Koi Obsession over in Canada join us today, but I've lost his email address. So hopefully Ken will tune in and hit the link that's in the comments when my tablet decides to sort itself out. I tell you what, I fucking hate technology. There we go. So we've got a link in the comments if anyone overseas wants to come and join us, or anyone else wants to come and join us this afternoon for the car crash live that is Twisted Koi. So what's everyone been up to this weekend? Oh, what's that you're talking about in the comments? Afternoon, everyone. Anthony Shepherd, Gwen, Simon Shears, Peter. Simon, I just watched that more. I haven't actually seen it yet, Simon, but I did send Simon a link. You never know. Hopefully, he might come on and join us and give us a bit of explanation, because I haven't got a clue. There he is. We'll get there. Is it my laptop, or is it Ken's connection?
Oh.
There he is.
There we are.
How are we doing, Ken?
Good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Not too bad. Well, I say not too bad. About 10 minutes before I came in to set StreamYard up, I went to give the IBC tank a malachite green and formalin treatment, and yeah, shook the bottle and the lid wasn't done up properly, so I'm covered in malachite green at this moment in time.
Yeah. Hey, it happens.
Oh yes. Oh yes. So how are you over in Canada, Ken? What's the temperature at today?
It was -1 this morning.
Ouch.
It's up to about 2 degrees now. We're expecting a high of about 7 for the afternoon. And I checked the outdoor pond temperature because I knew I was coming on a video. So my outdoor pond is 6 degrees this morning.
Oh, so it's not completely frozen yet then?
No ice or anything. It was all frost this morning, but no ice on the pond yet. I mean, fish are all indoors. The indoor pond is about 20, 21 degrees, so they're quite comfortable down there.
Nice. Because earlier on in the week, you was down to -4, wasn't you?
Yes, yeah.
Mate.
Yeah, it's fun. So, I think the high yesterday was about 9, but it was sunny, so it was comfortable.
So but what's the lowest you go down to in your part of Canada?
In the winter, if we get what they call like the wind chill from a northerly wind,
yeah,
we get in anywhere between -30 and -40 for a day. Usually winter wise, we're in the -10, -15 range, something like that. Mm-hmm. Kind of thing. A bit obviously colder up north, but I'm in sort of what they call southern Ontario, so it's definitely a little warmer.
So our winter really is your summer temps or your spring temperatures?
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, but you do have a shorter window with the koi than we do, though, don't you? Because
yeah, I'm fortunate, like I say, that I can bring them indoors.
Yeah,
but from a pond perspective, outside now, if they were out there, kind of thing, they would kind of be out of commission probably till late May next year before they'd be active enough to start getting things going again.
Yeah, because poor Chris, he has to let his freeze over, doesn't he?
He does, yeah. I mean, in the winter months, again, because I'm not doing anything with the pond outside, I'm not worried about that. I usually get about 8 inches of ice on the pond.
So you could pretty much ice skate on your pond then without
Oh,
worrying
easily, yeah.
about
I've
without
walked on
worrying.
the pond in the February time frame. You know, you can jump on it. It's like jumping on concrete.
Mate, that's mental. I
Yeah,
just couldn't. I couldn't. No, I couldn't live. I don't. My arthritis wouldn't let me live in them conditions, let alone put up with them. And
yeah,
Canada is such a lovely place. I'd love to be able to go there in the winter just to see the beauty. But yeah, my body just won't be able to cope with them
yeah.
temperatures.
It's one. I mean, you get used to it. I mean, we bitch and complain all winter long, kind of thing, but you do get used to it. I think, as much as I hate to say it, I think I would actually miss it. You know, if I was
Mhm.
living, because I know I've commented to Jens from the Mustang Koi in Australia,
Oh yeah, yeah, cracking
because
bloke.
they're just getting into, well, they're in spring now. They're going to be heading into summer soon.
Yeah,
You know, but even their winter is like our, you know, late spring here,
I
kind of
know
thing,
it's
right?
mental,
And
isn't it?
I mean, it sounds nice, but I don't know if I could actually live there because I'm just so used to the temperatures we have over here.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, definitely.
I mean,
So
the biggest hassle here in the winter is dealing with the snow.
yeah,
I mean, there are days we get absolutely nothing and it's just cold, and there's other days where, you know, it can take you a couple hours just to clear the driveway,
Jesus,
you know.
Jesus.
And
Oh,
then,
we've
then
got.
out driving and everything can be a real hassle when you get into the winter. What's normally a, you know, a 20-minute trip
Oh,
can take
hello,
45 minutes
Vin.
to an hour and a
Nice to
half.
sort of meet
Yeah,
you.
definitely. How we
Yeah.
doing, Chris?
All right, mate. Thank you. How's you?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. Plodding along, just pottering around with bits around the pond. I'm not going to tell you too much of what I've been up to today and yesterday because that'd ruin the video coming out tonight, wouldn't it?
Oh, something to look forward to then, Vince.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I mean, I've not made major strides because a lot of it is funding at the moment, and getting that sorted is my main focus. Because not only have I got to get the liner, and I have decided that I am going to go with the box weld liner made to the biggest measurements of the pond, and then dealing with it when I get it in situ. I have been reassured by both Matt and Ricardo from New Forest Quay, and actually a couple of subscribers that popped into the shop this week. All of them said go for the box rod liner and hide decreases. So yeah, that's the route we're going to go down. Um, just funding now.
It's always the issue, isn't it? Money, money,
Yeah,
money.
yeah. But uh, hopefully it won't be long, and we'll have the glass and the liner ordered, and then once that in, it's just finishing off the filter system, which is where I'm at the moment in long block, pottering around in there.
Ah, good.
So,
Hello, Ken, by the way.
Morning, Chris.
I bet you're thinking, who the hell's that guy there?
Ken, this is Chris from X Trails Extra. He's a fairly new channel to the Koi Tube scene. So nice to see you on, mate. Uh, we'll let Ken give everyone a little rundown on what his system he's running indoors at the moment and how it runs, and then we'll move over to you, Chris. Yeah.
Well, that would be interesting because Canada is cold.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So as I was saying, Chris, to Vince there before you came along, um, our temperatures right now, and we're just into the kind of late fall. This morning it was -1. Uh, was -4 the other day, so we're heading for the colder temps. We will be getting into the winter temperatures, but I'm fortunate that I can bring my koi indoors for the winter, and that's what Vince was referring to. So I have, like, unlike a lot of homes, I think the majority of homes in the UK, pretty much every home here in, at least where I am in Ontario, we have basements. Some are finished, some are not. Generally, it's where like the washer dryer or your spin dryer, as you call it, our furnace and so on is down there. So I have most of my basement is my indoor koi pond. So it's 10 feet by 8 feet, 4 feet deep. Works out to about 2,000 US gallons, because all of our measurements here are done in US gallons as opposed to imperial. And I don't talk in liters very often because I'm old school kind of thing. I don't understand liters.
I'm the same, mate. I get lost with liters.
So the koi, I bring the koi in the fall, and they stay down there for the winter, and then next year when we get into probably the late May time frame, then they go back outside.
Ken, you say the fall. What sort of month is that for those out there that are watching that don't know?
Okay. So although officially fall kind of starts, in September, like September 21st, so it goes through to December 21st. But we start getting into the cooler temperatures usually into the October time frame. This year it was a bit milder, but we're getting chillier now. And it will continue to get colder. We get the odd warm day, but it will continue to get colder right through until, late December. Our coldest months are January, February, and March in most years. And then it gradually starts to warm up in March. But this year, the pond in my situation, because of fish are indoors, it was too cold to move them outside until almost the end of June.
Man, that's mental. So June, July, August. So yeah, an even shorter window than what we have then, really, for the growing season.
Now some people have, the majority of people that have outdoor ponds, like Chris, for example, he, because his fish are outdoors, they get more active as the weather warms up because the temperature, they change with the temperature. But because my house, with them being indoors, I don't like to move them from the indoor to the outdoor pond if there's a significant difference in water temperature. And the same when they come in from outdoors to indoors. I mean, if it's a little bit warmer in here, I don't mind. But if it's a major, 5, 6, 7 degree difference kind of thing, then that's huge for like a temperature shock. So they don't get moved kind of thing. So if they're outdoors kind of thing, they'd be getting active probably in the May time frame. But again, depending on weather, it'd be probably, June before they get moved back outside this year.
Yeah. So your inside system, do you actually heat that, or is that mains around 20 degrees because of the house above?
It's just because of the house. The basement, it does have like most of our heating systems here, or a lot of them in Canada, unlike yours, we have like the radiators and the boilers. A lot of ours, or the majority, like my own, is what they call forced air natural gas heating. So we have a furnace.
My mom's still got that sort of type thing. Warm air heating.
So we have the furnace, which heats the air, and then a big fan that kind of blows it through the house through ventilation system. There's a couple of vents in the basement, so it does generate warmth down in the basement. So it tends to keep the basement warmer, and just being kind of below grade, it helps to kind of regulate the temperature to a point anyway. So the water kind of stays at the ambient temperature or slightly cooler than what the air temperature is. So I'm not having to deal with, major difference and not having to heat the pond. My quarantine tank, if I'm doing anything down in there kind of thing, I do have like a Hydra heater that I use in that. But that allows me to, combine the two tanks, so that's 320 gallons for the quarantine system. So the heater, I can kind of, raise it, lower it, whatever I want kind of thing. So that doesn't take a lot of energy to do that. Where the indoor pond kind of thing would be significant. So, and then for those of you who don't know, I mean, I know I've done some sort of videos of the indoor system. It's all DIY, the indoor one. So I have 3 55-gallon drums, which are pump fed. So the water gets pumped from the pond into the first one, which is a static bed of K1 and K3 media, that kind of thing in there. That then flows into another drum, which has a moving bed with some K1 and K plus media. That goes into a third barrel, which again it's another moving bed. And then part of the water goes back into the pond from there, roughly half. And then the other half goes through that converted swimming pool filter that has the K plus sinking media in it. And then it goes into my tower shower, as I call it, with just various media in there, kind of thing, flows over that and then back into the pond. So it's really going through kind of two independent filter systems. They're working well. The pool, the indoor filter or the pressure filter, pool filter is doing a great job. It's amazing when I clean it. Now that I've added a blower to it, how much debris is coming out of that filter.
Yeah. I think the only thing for me is the sinking media in the actual filter itself. Can you see what I mean?
Yeah,
because it sinks. Does it, when you put the blower on, does it properly boil like floating K1 would? Can you see what I mean?
Yeah, I think from a movement standpoint, probably not kind of the same as like the floating K1, but by virtue of the way that the filter is designed, the water comes in when it's running in filtration mode. It comes in from the top, goes down through the media, through a series of little arms, kind of, if you will, underneath, and then back up a center tube and back into the pond. When you do the backwash for the cleaning, the flow is reversed, so the water goes down through the pipe, comes up through the bottom of the media to agitate it, and then back out to waste. Now, as a swimming pool filter with sand in there, it would kind of flush all the sand, not the sand out, but flush all the debris out that would settle on top of the media. So with the blower on there now, when I have that operating for cleaning, it's going down to the bottom, coming up from the bottom of the K plus, so it's coming up underneath it.
Yeah.
And it is blowing. I just used the blower component of my wet dry vac on it. It shakes that media enough, like the filter is literally vibrating on the floor.
You're going to have to do a video. You're going to have to do a video so we can all see that.
Yeah. So it is agitating the media like crazy in there. As the air is going in, some of the air and some of the water gets pushed out like the waistline as it's kind of jostling everything.
Yeah.
Once I've let that go for 4 or 5 minutes, then I turn the air off, turn the pump back on, and just flush water from the pond through the media to basically flush any debris out.
Yeah.
So the air loosens the debris and shakes it all up, and then the back flush with the water actually flushes the water and the debris out to waste.
Yeah.
And I run that. I just look at the waste hose. I run that until the water runs clear, and then I know that the filter's clean, and then it just gets put back into like sort of normal operation again. So I did have the K plus media, the floating kind, but I thought because of the way the water in the filter flows when it's in operation from sort of top down, the floating media, most of it would have been bypassed.
Yeah.
And I'd just be kind of circulating water really. So that's why I went with the sinking media.
Yeah, that does make sense. Have you tried when you flushing through? Obviously, when you're flushing through, the pump is running. Is it? Yep.
Yeah.
Have you tried with the air blower still blowing when you're flushing through to see if you actually get more shit come out because of the air movement rather than you would if? Can you see what I mean?
I do. Yeah, I haven't tried that yet, and I'm actually hesitant to do that because depending on sort of the pressure from the air going in versus the water pressure. If the water pressure is greater, kind of thing, it would get water into the blower and potentially short it out and ruin it.
Right.
Right. And I know on bead systems and even like the Evolution Aqua advanced bead filters kind of thing that they use now. I think when they're doing the backwash and stuff on those, if I'm not mistaken, from videos I've seen, is you agitate the media with a blower first, then the blower is turned off, the valve is turned off, and then the water's flushed through it. And again, just
Right.
to prevent a backflow of water getting into your blower.
Got ya.
Yeah, and I've done, not on my own. I've never had that system, but I've done some other bead filters with other people that have like a big spa blower on them, kind of thing. And again, when you're going to turn the water back on to do the backwash, you always sort of turn the blower off, turn the valve off, and then get the water movement going. So they kind of operate as two different steps.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
But it does, yeah. Just when the water does come out, when I'm after the air's been sort of turned off, you know, and it's I will have to do a video of that kind of thing. But you can see the debris and the color of the water coming out of that filter.
I look forward to watching that one because
yeah, and it's
I got to be honest. I'm not a fan of bead filters. As most of you know, I don't like pressurized filters either.
Yeah.
But the old swimming pool sand filters, bead filters, and that sort of thing. 9 times out of 10, they don't clean properly, and I've had plenty of people in the past that have run them and then ended up with problems in their ponds with bacteria problems and stuff. And it turned out when the filter system and everything was stripped down, the bead filter, even though you could see it bouncing around and coming out clean through the top, where you've got that little clear piece at the top that you can view through, and you could see dirty water coming out at the bottom. When you actually opened it up, there was big clumps of beads literally clumped together because they hadn't been agitated because of the amount of shit in there. Can you see what I mean?
Yes, yeah. Because when I first got into the hobby, I set up what I did is I purchased what they call like a swimming pool kit. So kind of like you would call now paddling pool or whatever, but unlike the ones now that are kind of stand like the one you're using in the front of your place while you're doing a pond, with like the vinyl sides and the framework on it. The ones, and this is going back 50 odd years now, they had a vinyl liner, but they had a corrugated metal wall.
Mm-hmm.
So you'd set the wall up, the liner went in, and then you had like a metal ring go around the top to kind of cap it. And some of those pools came with a filter kit as well. And because they were designed as a swimming pool, the filters were they were designed as sand filters with like a swimming pool pump motor on them. So that's what I was using to filter the water for the koi, because they were in that kind of pond. And I was having to backwash every day because they did clog up with fish waste. And most of the current swimming pool filters, which are sand based, are designed to catch errant skin cells, hairs, a little bit of floating debris, that type of thing. They're not designed for like fish waste. And I know once a year on my sand filters is I would like thoroughly take them apart to clean them, and the sand in there, it had compacted to the point it was almost like concrete. So it's getting to like you were saying with the beads kind of thing. But I think with the way the filter I've got now set up, because it is a K1 media, which is larger than most of the beads in the bead filters, and with the blower kind of thing, it agitates it very, very well. That's not to say maybe a little bit of debris is getting stuck in there somewhere, but it seems to be doing a great job. And once it's clean, I mean, the water slows ever so slightly in between cleanings, but once it's backwash kind of thing, it's like it's just flowing directly through with no media whatsoever. So I'm quite happy with it. And I've heard different things. I mean, I would, part of me says I would love a drum filter, the other part says no, you don't. And it comes down again to money for the filters. Like we don't have the availability here in Canada to access the filters, like the drum filters like you have there in the UK. You've got so many different ones you can choose from. We just don't have that availability here. And there are a couple of dealers. Like there's one about an hour and a half drive for me that does have I can't remember what brand it is now. They have a drum filter available for sale. But it's about $8,000 Canadian. Yeah.
How much?
About almost $8,000.
Jesus, that's expensive.
Yeah.
Fuck me.
Yeah, and that's not one of the big ones. I don't know. I can't remember if it's Draco or which one it is now off the top of my head. And I've seen like a couple on Amazon, which are in the $3,000 or $4,000 range, but they're kind of like a no-name kind of Chinese knockoff thing. And I mean, if you look at the write-up kind of thing, it looks wonderful. But then there's always, if something breaks, what about parts? Are you going to be able to get? Are you going to be able to get parts? I mean, with the big names like Quinnicoy and Draco and some of those. I mean, not so much here, obviously, but in the UK, if something goes wrong, you have dealers kind of thing. You can get parts from reasonably quickly and at a generally a reasonable price. But with a lot of the kind of overseas knockoffs like the Chinese ones, that kind of thing, chances are you couldn't get parts, and if you could, are they going to work properly? You're going to, if it breaks down today, how long it could take me, a month, 2 months to get a part in, kind of thing. And at what point, like, what's the use of having a drum?
Yeah. Or you could get the plans off of Righty and build your own.
Yeah, and I've looked funny because he did a video recently about a pond he visited where the gentleman had actually built one of his original models, kind of thing, all out of plywood.
Yep.
And it, I mean, it was working beautifully for him, kind of thing. It did really well. I mean, I like the one that Terry's got now, which is all done out of the plastic or the
the out of the
polycarbonate or whatever. And I mean, that's a phenomenal unit, kind of thing. That one.
Oh yeah, because it's not just his drum, is it? He built his drum, he built his bio chamber, he built his protein skimmer, his upflow, and his sieve.
Yeah.
Yeah. And on top of that, he built a CNC machine, which he does some absolutely beautiful work with. And I am so proud to be able to say I am honoured to have one of Terry's pieces, because he done me a big round twisted welcome to Twisted Koi black with two kois.
That's the one you've got in the long block there.
Yeah, it's coming out a long book, and it's going up so it can be visible by everyone on what's going to be the new patio area.
Oh, good, excellent.
So,
he's done. Yeah, he's a very talented individual.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah, and again, I think with part of my issue here as well is temperature wise, because with a drum, even if it's completely drained and everything, kind of thing, because of all the components and stuff, I don't know how well it would weather our winters.
Yeah.
And again, and even if I did like the wooden one that like Terry's original, because the wood expands and contracts depending on temperature, humidity, and all the rest of it, that might present a bit of an issue as far as sealing the seams and everything, over a course of a year, maybe a couple of years, with it being outdoors all the time.
But couldn't you do the wooden one, but instead of painting it fiberglass the inside, with your filter pit being below ground? Surely that would work.
Yeah, probably. I mean, that might do that kind of thing. Just and again, it's one of those. I personally don't think I've got the carpentry skills to build it properly. And I've never done fiberglassing, so I don't know how that would turn out. And I'm hesitant to do that kind of thing. And again, I know I watched gents from Mustang Koi when he fiberglassed his pond. And the amount of time and effort and material he put into doing it. And he's in a warm climate pretty much all year round compared to what we get here and compared to what you have in the UK. And I know of very few people, if any, here at least in Southern Ontario, that have koi ponds or even goldfish ponds that have them fiberglassed. 99% of them, we just do like an EPDM rubber liner. Like a plain sheet, and put it in.
Yeah.
The first pond that I ever built, and I know I've got that in one of my earlier videos, one of my earliest videos. It was, I guess you could kind of call it like a box weld liner, except it was a vinyl swimming pool liner that was custom made to fit the
Yeah.
hole that I did.
Yeah.
I mean, it did fit. I mean, I had to do a bit of adjustment because my measurements weren't 100%. I mean, it did fit. It worked. I did lose a number of fish after putting it in, and I think it's because of the chemicals in the liner itself. Because
Right.
most of the outdoor swimming pool liners are treated to minimize algae growth and all that kind of thing because they're designed for human use, not fish.
Yeah.
Whereas the rubber liners, EPDM ones, like I've used in my pond since the one I've got in my pond now and in my indoor one, I mean, they're all fish safe,
Yeah.
and they're very sturdy, so there's no issues. And I think with most people, again, here, koi pond people, with the odd exception, if you mentioned, you're going to get a box weld liner, they would look at you like you're crazy because they wouldn't know what that is. And I only know from watching the videos, in the UK, like even when you started speaking about box weld, it's kind of like, okay, I know what that is. Because I know there are a number of people in the UK that have them.
Yeah.
So it is watching those videos, because otherwise it'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, I have no idea. And again, remember, and most of the pond supplier, like Vandermeer's, for example, they have a good pond department. They sell a lot of pond liner throughout the course of the season, all in various sizes. But again, it's all comes on big rolls,
Yeah.
and it's cut to size, and then you put it in a pond, like you've done with your own, and then you fold the corners in, you work out the creases and all that kind of thing, and you can get it where it's really really good, but it's never going to be as clean as a box weld liner.
Yeah.
But at least with the sheet liner, it allows for kind of miscalculations in your measurement within reason. Where like you're
Yeah,
saying a box weld
definitely.
liner, and I know your video the other day you mentioned, the walls were off, maybe an inch or something at top to bottom kind of thing.
It
With a
was
sheet
more.
liner,
It was
with a
more
sheet
side to
liner,
side than top to bottom.
yeah.
Top to
So
bottom was pretty much the same all the way around. It's just the odd wall is
was a
a
little,
little bit of a discrepancy, but
yeah. But like I said, I mean that's
to all the
yeah,
naysayers out there that I know, because I know there is, at the end of the day, the gentleman who done it for me, he was not a builder. And he said right at the start, I'm not a bricklayer, I'm not a block layer, I'm not a builder, but I will come round and I will do it for you because I know you can't. And I will be forever eternally grateful. And one of the reasons why we are out on the front wall is because the building next door, where the foundations for that were stuck out like a big lump, there was only a certain amount that we could comfortably cut off of that for us to work up against. Can you see what I mean? Because neither
yes, yeah.
myself or Stuart were comfortable taking it off right up flush to that building. Didn't want it because the buildings are old. The mortar in between the bricks is flaky as fuck. So I'm not going to piss around too much with the foundations of the building next door. You know what I mean? So it is what it is, and it's bigger than what I had before. The walls are up a damn sight better than I would ever have been able to do it. So yeah, on to the next bit, which is the liner and glass, because I am presently working on the filter system. Oh, fuck, I told you I was going to tell you what I've been up to today, didn't I? Oh.
Well, you've been working on the filter system for a while, so. But no, because I know I watched some of your video about the where you've gotten so far, and was watching him like do that brickwork or the block work kind of thing. And I mean, I don't know how it's done personally kind of thing, but to watch him, to me he had a lot of experience because he was putting those in, and the way he was putting a mortar and stuff in between them kind of thing. He knew what he was doing. So to have them off by just a minute amount considering the size of the thing is phenomenal. He did an amazing job putting that together.
Oh yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Yeah.
like I say, I've told everyone I cannot thank the man enough, because without Liam from the Koi couple, Rocket Boy, Pickle, and our Stewart, you know, I would
Yeah.
not be where I am today with the build.
Yeah.
You know, and yes, it was built with blocks on edge, but down that whole fence line between that wall and the fence, there is about 5 inches of concrete, 4 3/4 foot deep. So I really don't think any of those walls are going to go anywhere, especially with the front walls, because I tied in every new block on the top and the sides into the existing wall that Stuart put up, and that whole lot of block work and the concrete that was in down the side, that was all put together with those Black Wizard micro fiberglass fibers that
Oh yeah.
give you a smooth finish and a lot more strength. So yeah, it's not going to fail.
No,
That's for
I
sure.
wouldn't. I wouldn't think so. No,
No.
I mean, I mean, again, you're fortunate in the UK, based on your sort of temperature compared to ours, that you can have, like partially a fully above ground pond or partially above ground, similar to what you're doing with your
Yeah.
window and so on. Where again, here that's something that is it doable? Yes. Is it practical? Probably not, because of the freezing and everything that we get.
Yeah.
And again, like my outdoor pond being in ground, I mean, it never freezes solid. I mean, I get that 8 inches, as I mentioned earlier, but the water under that is still water, because the ground helps, maintain a certain amount of warmth during the winter months.
Yeah. But you
But pretty
do
much
have to empty
anything,
your filters and
yeah,
pipe work, though, don't you?
yeah, I do. Yeah, I drain all those out, blow them all out, and everything to make sure that they're completely devoid of water.
Hmm.
But any pond that is like raised, especially in these areas, again, like where Chris is, that water that's above ground or potentially above ground would likely freeze solid, and quite possibly push the walls of the pond out, push your window out, whatever it happened to be.
Hmm.
So
So
being fully in ground kind of thing is fine, kind of thing. I mean, it again, above ground would be certainly nice. To a point, I'd love to have a window in it so I could see the fish, like you can do currently in your, your fry pond or your,
yeah.
you know, you're growing on one and so on. I mean, I'd love to be able to see something like that, and like so many other people have. But
So
again, just
would you
just here
not
weather-wise, kind of thing, it's not practical.
would you not be able to put some kind of polytunnel or something over the pond? Would that not stop it from freezing, or will it freeze because of the actual ground temperature?
Yeah, quite a few people here will do that. They will put a polytunnel over the pond for the winter. They'll generally do a frame with like PVC electrical conduit, because that has a bit of flexibility to bend to kind of make the ribs of the
Yeah.
tunnel, as opposed to like the metal like you're doing at New Forest there for the greenhouses.
Yeah.
And then they do get greenhouse poly to actually cover it with, because it's nice and strong. It will definitely maintain a certain amount of warmth in the winter compared to like my pond with nothing covering it.
Yeah.
You still get ice on the pond, but it's not nearly the same depth. The ponds, if you get the tunnel on early enough in the fall, the pond will stay warm enough for the fish to be active much later in the year than an open pond.
Yeah.
And it usually warms up faster in the spring. So again, the fish get more active after the winter. The one thing you do have to worry about, though, depending on where you are, again, is the amount of snow that we may or may not get. Because a lot of these sort of DIY polytunnels, the snow load can cause the poly to collapse.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
And then you're out there
Snow, snow.
you're out there in minus 20 degree trying to fix or put new poly or something on it.
Yeah.
Like a couple of winters ago, I had like a metal gazebo out the back with like polycarbonate roof, and I had it for quite a few years. It was working great, and we had a really heavy snowfall one day, and I went out in the morning and thought, I'm going to have my coffee. Then I'll get out, kind of thing, get the snow off there. And by the time I went back out half an hour later, the whole thing had collapsed. Like it crushed the aluminum. It collapsed down onto the deck because the snow was that wet and that heavy.
I was going to say, snow after a period of time gets very heavy, doesn't it?
Yeah,
but, yeah.
and we get some snowfalls. You might get, a foot of snow kind of thing, and it's light. I mean, you could almost blow it away with a straw because it's so nice, light, and fluffy. And then you can have another snowfall where you get an inch or two in there, kind of thing, and it's almost water, and it's so heavy to try and move it. Even a lot of the snow blowers or snow throwers struggle with the heavier snow.
Yeah.
So depending on the temperature, if it's cold enough to snow, but still on that mild edge, it's very heavy, damp snow. If it's really cold, it's usually light color or lighter snow kind of thing. So there is that risk. And like even the cover I've got on my pond now, I mean, I take the framework is up. I take the top off. It's actually designed so that the bark are underneath to help protect it, during the summer months and so on. Yeah. But the manufacturer does caution that it only has a certain snow load to it as well. So I mean, it could potentially collapse. Okay.
Question for you there, Ken.
Yeah, I see that. I guess depending on what you're sort of considering predators, UK versus what we have here, we do get herons. I've had a couple of years ago. I did have one in the backyard. I looked out the window and it was standing at the edge of the pond. Now, fortunately, because I've got roughly an 18-inch wall around the pond, and the water level's like down in the ground completely, and I have the electric fence around it, kind of thing, that helps to minimize anything getting into the pond, and it certainly deterred the heron. We have raccoons over here, which can get into the pond, and again, my electric fence will deter that. When I was building the pond, a couple of times I'd go like in the morning and you'd see raccoon footprints all around where I was working. And I know there was one day when I let the dogs out, they went tearing to the back of the yard and were barking at a tree in a neighbor's yard. And I looked up and there was a raccoon sitting in a tree. And I live not too far from, about a 10-minute walk, if that, from a trail in a ravine area where I walk my dog. And about a month ago, I had him out for a walk. We were out there around 6 a.m, and he started looking up and pulling at a tree, and there was a raccoon up the tree. So we do get raccoons. Raccoons and herons are the biggest threat generally. Yeah. We do have mink issues occasionally. Not this year, but last year, even Vandermeer had a mink issue. One got into the store, and actually you're familiar, like that Chris pretty much gives all the shabunkins to Vandermeer's.
Yeah.
A mink got in there over a couple of nights and took pretty much emptied out all the goldfish they had. We finally caught the mink and got rid of it, kind of thing, but it got in. I haven't seen mink in my backyard. When I was building a pond, the gentleman across the street came over and said his next door neighbor had a mink in his backyard one morning, had come up from the creek. We do have, I think from what I've heard as well, a few people in the UK on YouTube have mentioned about foxes getting some of their fish.
Oh, I've not heard that one.
Yeah, there's a couple of people I think have mentioned about a fox getting into the yards. We have foxes around here. We don't see them often. Ours is more the coyotes, which are more of a regular thing. Now, I haven't, I saw one just Friday morning. I was walking the dog. There was one out kind of crossing by the ravine. I haven't had any issues getting into the pond. But I think what has really saved me is, again, building the wall up a little higher and putting that electric fence around it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if anything has tried to get into the pond and the fence has scared it away, because I haven't found anything and haven't had any fish go missing.
Yeah.
At the home I lived at before coming into this one, I had and again, I know that's in one of my videos. The pond was, again, completely in ground, but there was no fence or anything around it. And I had gone to Vandermeer's one morning, picked up a couple of toastai, and they were about $80 each, something like that I paid for them. Nice fish, put them in the pond. Next morning I came out, they were both gone. The bigger ones were fine. The two new ones were gone. And I know I had seen heron in the backyard previously. So what I ended up doing is putting fishing line around the pond to help deter herons from kind of getting access to the water, and that did seem to help. So usually the herons and the raccoons are the biggest ones, especially for people that have smaller ponds that are not overly deep. And quite a few people here, when they build ponds, they put in like what they call planting shelves.
Yep.
So they have the around the edges of the pond kind of thing. They have like a step or something in it to put, marginal plants, that kind of thing on it. And that just has a way of not attracting raccoons per se, but it actually gives them, it actually gives them access to the pond. You're basically building a step for the raccoons to get into your pond. Mm-hmm. And I know, or I've spoken to a lot of people that have had raccoons come in the pond and quite literally clear them out 100%. And some of those people, they give up after a year or two with koi, and they just put in cheap goldfish because they figure, I'd rather lose $20 worth of goldfish than $200 or $2,000 worth of koi.
Yeah, there's a lad over in America I watch, Tobias Hollenstein.
Yeah, I'm not familiar with him.
He's building a pond for a big pond, but he's got all his goldfish in a swimming pool, and he's actually caught raccoons on camera trying to get through the net at the goldfish.
Yeah.
How do you get otters at all?
There are otters in Canada. I'm not aware of any, like in Ontario where I am. Maybe a little bit north. I know there's out in Vancouver, which is on the west coast of Canada. There is and they have warmer climate than we do over here, just by virtue of being right next to the ocean. There's a big garden out there. I think it's a big Chinese garden, and they had an otter get in a couple of years ago. Got into the pond and killed nearly all the koi. They eventually moved the koi out of the pond into an indoor facility because, I can't remember how many they had, but the majority of them were eaten by the otter. So and we have river otters, which again, as the name says, kind of gets sort of via river, more fresh water, and then there's sea otters, which, inhabit the ocean kind of thing, but they will come in freshwater to get fish. So again, fortunately, where I am, kind of thing, the only otters I've ever seen have been like on television or at the zoo. And I'm very thankful that I don't have that issue.
Right, Gaz was just saying, a few people are saying that think mink or otter may have got it, but not a chance where I live. It wasn't a mink or an otter. But you say that, Gaz. I can't remember. It was Matt, Ricky, or it was someone, and they showed me a video of an otter in a housing estate, not a drop of water anywhere near the place for about 10 miles. Yet there was an otter in the pond chasing the koi. Absolutely blew my mind. I'll try and get a copy of the video and I'll show you. It's absolutely mental. So yeah, just because you live away from a river or a watercourse, don't think that you're not covered, because I've physically seen the video, and it was at night, but he straight in through the garden fence, up chasing these koi around. It was just mental.
Yeah, they do. Well, there's a fellow that I know. He lives in what they call Barrie, Ontario, which is about an hour and a half drive north of where I am. And he's got a nice pond in his backyard, and he put a poly tunnel over it for the winter, had it all weighted down around the bottom to help keep the poly in place and so on. Somehow a mink got in underneath, found a hole in the poly, got in, didn't get all his fish, got most of them. So he did set a trap and he managed to catch it. And he sent me a little video clip of it. And you look at it, it's like a neat looking little animal kind of thing. And then as he moved the camera a little bit closer to the end of the trap, if that thing could have got through, it would have torn his face off. And nasty, it was hissing and snapping and growling. A nasty little critter kind of thing. And I thought, I wouldn't want to come face to face with one of those either. I mean, they look so docile, and even like the otters, I mean, they look so neat kind of thing, right? But they can clean out a pond in no time. And they don't, unfortunately, they don't sort of take one and then just go away. I mean, they'll take one, you eat part of it, and then
Yeah,
go back for another one and another
yeah,
one and another one. And it doesn't matter whether they're little fish or big fish kind of thing. They'll go after all of them.
yeah. I know what you're saying, guys, but I'm not saying you had an otter, but I have seen actual video footage of an otter in a housing estate with an otter watercourse in sight.
Yeah. I mean, I think from what I understand too, with like the otters and the mink and those kind of things, is they're more active in the generally in the spring as far as feeding, because they're coming out of winter period when food is reasonably scarce.
Yep.
They also start to mate and have their young in the spring, early to late spring, going into the summer months. So they need more food to sustain themselves. They need food for the young. So they're going to be a lot more active, and that's again, people are getting their ponds going. So that's when they will come into into the yards and everything to feed, because they're looking more for for that easy food source. Um,
It's
and the goal has always been, I know it's you don't like to say it, but even with my electric fence, I would rather have something come to my pond, get zapped by the fence, and go screw this, and go to my next door neighbors and eat his fish, type thing, right? I mean, neighbors on both sides don't have ponds, so don't have to worry about that,
yeah,
But I would, if it's anything kind of thing, I would prefer that it go to someone else's pond as opposed to mine.
yeah.
And the electric fence I have, it's like a garden fence. It's designed more to keep rabbits and small animals out of your away from your vegetable garden, that type of thing.
Yeah.
But if you touch it, kind of thing, you get a nice kick from it, and it's definitely going to deter most critters from getting to the fish.
Oh yeah. I've had a
And
little kick from one at the koi farm.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's not designed for horses and cattle and that kind of thing, like the really heavy duty, higher capacity units.
Yeah.
It's designed for like smaller animals, kind of thing. But you've touched it if you touch it.
Oh yeah.
You definitely you get a zap, yeah. Because I mean, I've one of the biggest mistakes that I make with it is usually if I'm working around the pond, I will turn it off so that I don't zap myself. Um, the way my brick wall around the pond is, some moisture gets in there and allows the odd weed and so on to grow along the edges inside by the pond.
Yeah.
So I like to reach over and just kind of pull them out. They're easy to pull out because the roots don't really have anything to get into. I'll reach over, pull them out, and put them into like a recycle thing.
Yeah.
And I have a bad habit of forgetting to turn off the fence, reaching over, figuring, yeah, I'll just grab it and pull it out, and 9 times out of 10, my arm's going to touch one of those wires. Yeah, yeah, I do that on a regular basis, unfortunately, kind of thing. So it's yeah, so I'm very careful not to. Well, I try to be careful not to touch. But if I'm doing anything around the plumbing with the pond, or netting the fish to check anything or anything like that, again, because the handle of the net is metal, and I don't want the metal touching the wire and then zapping myself, kind of thing. So I make sure that I turn it off, and then I
Yeah.
always double check the power unit for it has like a little flashing light to let you know that it's operational.
Mm-hmm.
The unit has to be protected from the elements, kind of thing. So it's in my filter pit, so it's covered all the time. So I always kind of pop my head in the pit, make sure the light's flashing, then I know it's working. And I do have a tester that I can hook up to it if I just want to do a quick test to see that there's actually current flowing through the wires.
Yeah.
And the way I've got mine set up, it's actually a 3-wire system. So there's 2 live wires and a ground wire in the middle, and they're spaced about an inch apart. So if anything, small or even larger tries to go over, through, or under, kind of thing, it's going to get zapped.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. I set it up that way deliberately, kind of thing, to make sure, rather than just like one wire, I want to make sure, be it a squirrel or an otter, or a mink or whatever, you try to get through that or through the small opening, you're going to get smacked with it.
Oh yeah. I've one of Rick's dogs is renowned for forgetting about the wire, and then you'll hear this almighty high pitched yelp, then Vader will come back and steaming past you.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, my new one here, Lucky, he hasn't done that yet. He's been out when I've had the pond out and everything kind of thing, but so far he hasn't touched it. So I mean, I hope he doesn't because I don't want him to get zapped. But yeah, you know when you've touched it for sure. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you're one that loves, very much like myself, you love to tinker. So
Yes.
do you have any plans of any changes for the main pond or the ponds, or should I say pond, in the basement, as in changes or things you want to tweak?
Yeah, I think what I think I might be doing down there, I'm still kind of toying with the idea, is that sort of my tower shower, as I call it. I mean, it seems to be working pretty well. But I think I might take it out and put in more like a trickle tower or trickle shower kind of thing, or like a Baki shower, I should say, that style.
Yeah.
And then put some different media in there and also give me a bit more space to put media and so on in kind of thing. So I'm thinking of maybe changing that one out to put that in, and then maybe modifying my barrel filters like the static and the other ones kind of thing.
Yeah.
Um,
In what way?
I think what I was thinking actually of doing is one of the static, maybe even I have filter brushes here. I bought some a few years ago. So the
Yeah.
standard long ones. And in my outdoor pond for a few years, I had I think it was a night tech. I think it is a vortex, about a 40-inch vortex unit out there.
You did.
And I went and I purchased what they call the vortex filter brushes, like they're about 6 feet long and they kind of
Yeah.
spiral into your vortex.
Basically,
I
basically a spawning brush, but in black.
Yeah, but they're a much the material on them is a lot more coarse than the spawning brushes.
Yeah.
Designed obviously to catch debris versus injuring the fish. The Black Knight ones, I'd ordered them from a supplier in the UK a few years ago, and I used them in the vortex. And since I sort of changed the system up to what it is out there now with the 2 easy pods and so on, the brushes have just been in storage. So what I was thinking is possibly taking my barrel downstairs now, which is just the static media in there, taking that media out and putting the brushes in instead to catch bigger debris that's coming through it. And then the sort of filtered water from that one would then go through the moving bed filters that are down there kind of thing and then back into the pond.
So would you not
Sorry,
think of doing one brush, one static, one active?
yeah, and that was another idea I was kind of thinking or toying with as well. I mean, and I could easily do that because with the brushes, from a cleaning standpoint, they'd be easy enough to clean in the chamber of the barrel that they're in,
Yep.
just by shaking them around. And each of the 3 barrels that I have, they all have like a drain attached to them, kind of thing that I can open up. It's an 1.5 inch drain line with a slide valve on it. So cleaning them is literally you open a valve kind of thing. That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm thinking possibly of doing that with the brushes, putting them in to try that. But I think what I'm probably going to do is I'm going to give it a bit more thought, but I'm not likely to actually make that change until the fish are back outside. Because I don't want to interrupt the sort of biological capacity to filter and everything too much now with the fish indoors. If they're outside kind of thing, I always have the sturgeon on the indoor ponds. I mean, there's always biological, activity going on in there. But they require, with the 2 of them versus all the koi and the 2 of them in there, the filters have to work harder with a bigger volume of fish.
Yeah, because you're feeding a high
So I might
protein
wait,
diet.
like say, until the spring when the fish are moved outside, and it's just a 2 sturgeon kind of thing. So if I do interrupt the system for, a day or 2 while I'm kind of setting things up, or certainly if it's going to jostle the bio load by virtue of, moving media and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It'd have much less impact on the pond when there's a much smaller fish load inside.
Yeah.
Yeah. And even like
So
when I moved the fish outdoors in
at
the
the
spring.
moment,
Oh,
you've
yeah.
got one static and two active, haven't you?
Yes.
Now, do you not think by removing all of that cave, whatever cave media is you've got in that first chamber, which is your static, replacing that with brushes, do you not think you're going to lose a big chunk of your bio capacity in doing so?
I mean, it's certainly, I think I would definitely lose some, but because I've got the two sort of moving bed now kind of thing, I mean, that's where most of the bioactivity takes place, is in the moving beds. And I could transfer, if I'm going to change like the sort of barrel number two, if you will, from moving bed to static, there would be much more capacity to move some of that media into there. Like if
Yeah,
I put too much media in there, then it doesn't bubble properly to keep it as a proper moving bed. You get some dead spots.
yeah.
But if that's turned off, like if the air's turned off and I move the media over there kind of thing, then, that's not going to be an issue. I could certainly move a good portion, maybe not all of it, but a good portion of it over,
Yeah.
which is going to help with, keep that bio load kind of thing comfortable. Yeah, so that might be something that I might do as well. But yeah, I'm seriously thinking of, potentially just trying it with the brushes to see what happens. I mean, I've got them. I know they're going to fit in there. Um, I have a way to support them so they're not directly on the bottom of the barrel to allow for waste to kind of settle, or when I'm doing a cleaning to allow
Yeah.
it to flush out. Like they're not going to be sitting on the bottom kind of thing. I mean, I tinkered with that on a setup I had previously with sponges in there and metallo matting and that kind of stuff before.
Yeah.
And that worked well, but it was just so difficult to clean it, especially the sponges. I mean, they were really good, but I mean, as you know, even from like at the farm where you've got your cloverleaf filter there, you get that
Oh
sponge
yeah.
media kind of thing. That's really difficult to clean compared to some of the other media.
Yeah, that's
So I
why
gave,
on our filter, the sponges are right on the end. So that they are literally catching in just the fine bits.
yeah. Yeah, because I mean the spot. I mean, and I know you said you kind of hate pressure filters, and I agree with you 100%. Um, the big thing with any of the pressure filters that I've had experience with personally, either some I've owned in the past or some I've helped other people with, the so-called cleaning mechanism that the manufacturers build into them. You move a
Yeah.
lever up and down, you turn the handle. At best, you're cleaning the outside half an inch of the sponges.
Yep.
The,
No
the rest of
further.
them, yeah, the rest of them don't clean, and it doesn't matter, which brand it is.
Nope.
I mean, even I've seen some of the new Awasi ones. I mean, and they're very impressive filters, but they
Yep.
also have the sponges kind of thing, and they do clean reasonably well using the mechanism, the lever mechanism they have in there to kind of squish
Yeah.
the debris out of them. But if you take drain the water kind of thing, take the lid off, and then take those sponges out kind of thing, they're still caked in debris, despite how
Yep.
regularly you clean them. So they just don't do it for me. And again, I know my converted swimming pool filter is technically, well, it is a pressure filter in a manner of speaking. But by having, again, the media in there and the blower, I mean, adding that blower made a massive difference to what I was able to clean. When I cleaned it previously before putting that on, you get some debris coming out.
Yeah.
You could definitely see some because the water is moving it a little bit. But since adding the blower kind of thing, as I said, I mean, the thing literally vibrates now. And the color of the water coming out of there. And I do a backwash and sort of filter clean water change about every 5 days on the indoor pond.
Yeah.
And you can see just in that 5 days kind of thing that the color that's coming out of that filter, like when it runs through the tower, and the water coming out is nice and clear. When you're just doing the cleaning kind of thing, the water's disgusting. I mean, it's almost like an easy pod. You can have it running and you look at the water coming out and it's crystal clear. But when you do the bubble to clean it, the boiling,
Yeah.
the amount of sediment and stuff that's in there kind of thing, I mean, it looks almost like muck in some cases.
Yeah.
and my sort of converted pool filter is almost the same kind of scenario. But it does work. I mean, it's working really, really well. I'm really happy with making that change.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was worth getting the sinking media sent over as well, because again, that's something that K plus here is very difficult to get. It's really expensive. I did check a few places in the States that have it.
It's a good media though, Ken.
Some will not ship to Canada. And I checked, so buying some from a dealer in the UK and getting a bag
Yep.
sent over here, including the exchange rate, the shipping, the tax, the import taxes, all that stuff, was actually less expensive than buying it from the United States.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah, I got it shipped over from the UK for less, including again import duties and all the rest of it, as compared to what it was going to cost me to get it just shipped up from from the States.
Yeah. I mean, as a biological media, I prefer Helix 13. Because
I don't. Yeah,
it does have a major difference in surface area in comparison to K1, K micro, K3,
yeah,
and all the others out there. But in the K plus is defense, it's the only one out of all of the Evolution Aqua medias that I've found actually matures quicker. For some reason, maturation of the plastic media itself is better on the K plus than it is K1, the K micro, and the K3.
Yeah, and I think if I'm not mistaken, on the Evolution Aqua site, and even on the bags the media comes in, I think there is some mention in there that they've impregnated the plastic with something to help the bacteria grow on the K plus. Now, whether that's whether it makes a difference or not, I mean, I'm not a microbiologist. I couldn't look at a piece and tell you. So that, I mean, if there is something kind of thing, that might be the reason that you are getting faster maturation in it. I don't know. That might just be a marketing thing as well, but I do remember reading that on both the floating and the sinking K plus.
Yeah.
But like the Helix kind of thing again. I mean, I've seen that like on the English YouTube videos. Same with Flowcore and that type of media over there. And again, that's stuff we just don't get it over here. I've never seen Helix or anything even similar advertised here.
But you have a Wazi though, don't you, over there?
Sorry, what was that?
You do have a Wazi over there, though, don't you?
Yeah, we have access to it. There's not our access here is limited again based on some of the dealers in the United States that have the Wazi product. And again, I've watched a few videos, like Phil from Telford Pond, for example. He goes to a number of different koi places, and videos from these shops. And Dave from Eden Pond, he does the same thing. And you look at some of the shops and the amount of Awazi product that they have available. I mean, they have row upon row upon row of the Awazi product.
Yes.
You go to online or some of the dealers here, and you might say or see like an Awazi box filter type thing. Like when I've got the 5000 model, I use on my quarantine tank, the Awazi one. I mean, it's doing a great job.
Yeah.
But it's filtering like 320 gallons of water. It's not filtering a 5,000 gallon pond full of koi.
Yeah.
I know they do bigger ones as well, but I went with the Awazi because of cleaning, because of the name, the quality of the product and everything compared to others.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever used it on my koi pond because in all honesty, and no offense to them, I just don't think it could do it. Now the Awazi drum filters, and I think that's what koi or Phil at Telford Pond's got one.
Yes.
I mean that's an amazing setup the way he's got it, with the pumps, chamber, and all the rest of it.
He's got the recycling RO unit as well, so he gets minimal waste from his RO unit.
Yeah, I mean, and he's got. I know I did comment on one of his videos I think he had more rubber boots and fittings and all that stuff in his filter shed than some of the stores have.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he's got parts everywhere, kind of thing, if he needs to do something. But yeah, he's got the complete massive setup there. You know, so I mean, I mean, a drum filter like he's got, kind of thing, would be phenomenal. I would love, again. Well, I mean, in my mind, I would love something like that. In reality, again, climate wise and everything,
Yeah.
I don't know if it'd be realistic. And it's definitely not in my budget. I mean, I'm retired. I'm on a pension. I divorced, so I lost a whole whack of money because of that. Um, you know, it's costing a lot more with everything, water and hydro and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And like our water here, we get, I think it's every 2 months, I think it is our bill. But we 4 different charges come on our bill in addition to like our tax. So you get like a water fee just for having the water come to the house. You
Yeah.
have a consumption fee for the amount of water that you use. You have a sewage fee for taking the water away, and then a sewage fee to actually pay for the cleaning of the water that you take away, plus the provincial federal taxes on top of that. And the sewage charge is generally double what the consumption charge is. So if I use $50 worth of water to come into the house, it costs me $100 just to get it out of the house. And that's in addition to the supply and service fees. And it doesn't matter whether you use it for drinking, for washing, for toilet facilities, for your koi pond, for washing a car, watering a lawn. You pay the same regardless of what it's used for.
Yeah.
You know, and I go through.
Guys are saying we've got an echo with you. We've got an echo from you, Ken, all of a sudden.
Oh, sorry. I haven't changed anything on this end.
Yeah, you suddenly started to echo. I don't know how to do anything this end. Audio. Got echo cancellation on.
Is it any difference?
We can hear you, but you've got a bit of an echo going on there, and I honestly don't know what I'm doing with technology. How are we doing, Dr. K? Yeah, but yeah, we do have a little bit of an echo from you, Ken.
Okay, yeah, hopefully not too bad. And I know our electric costs, our hydro costs, are, I mean, they're going up as they are pretty much worldwide. And I know with mine, because I have the outdoor pond running in the summer months, the indoor pond running all year round, and now we're getting into the heating and everything issues with the motors going and stuff. That adds a lot to the cost. And we have what they call a smart meter here for our hydro meters, because we pay different rates depending on the time of day. Like weekends is cheaper than it is like from 9 a.m. to 6 a.m. or 6 p.m. something like that, when most people use Massima. And you can, I don't have to read the meter because it's an electronic thing, but I look at my meter and I look at my neighbors, and it's an elderly couple. Not that I'm not elderly, but he's a little older than I am, and it's just he and his wife, and the house is the same size as mine. I look at his meter, and the numbers on it are hardly moving. And I look at mine, kind of thing, and I'm surprised it hasn't almost melted the meter, because it's just whipping by with all the. So I have no doubt I'm using far more electricity than he is, just to keep things going.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I don't mind. I mean, it's keeping the fish healthy. I mean, I love having them. And again, with the hydro costs, a lot of complaints I hear here, especially in the winter, is if you are using what I call like a pond heater, a pond de-icer, to keep that open in the ice over the winter. Not so much heat the pond, but just keep the ice open for oxygen exchange. The hydro consumption can be horrendous. Because you got a 300 or 1500 watt heater sitting outside in sub-zero temperatures for like 3-4 months.
Yeah.
And hydro bills skyrocket when people are using those heaters. So that's my advantage of having them indoors, because my indoor, the filters, like the pump and so on, and the air pump, use minimal electricity compared to that. Plus, as we said earlier, they get a lot of warmth just by virtue of being indoors.
Yeah.
So that cost kind of thing is negligible compared to having like an outdoor heater in the pond.
So
Um,
you must still get quite a bit of growth from your koi, because your ambient temperatures are so high in your.
yeah, the biggest koi, I mean, they've pretty much stopped growing, I think, at this point. I think a lot of that's based on age as well. Some of the smaller ones that I have in there, put some size on during the winter. Yeah, they definitely get some growth over the winter months in there.
Yeah, I did it. Ooh. Echo's gone, Ken.
Oh, good. Yeah, yeah. So they do get some growth in there. Again, I mean, now when I say smaller, I mean they're in the 18-inch range or whatever it is, kind of thing, right? But yeah, so I'm still getting some growth out of some of them.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they're spoiled. I mean, in addition to like the pelleted food, they also get occasionally they get shrimp, they get mussel meat, they get clams, they get mealworms, they get black soldier fly larva, silk pupa. They get for vegetable matter kind of thing. I usually feed them like peas because I don't
Yep.
have any plants or anything in there. Occasionally a handful of Cheerios or something kind of thing, but I mean they do get a varied diet down there as well. And the same when they're outdoors. And I have my auto feeder on outside in the summertime, and that worked really well. It's one of the Fishmate P7000 ones.
Yeah.
That worked really well for them out there. I know I went through because I was feeding it or filling it on a regular basis, kind of thing. So they were going through more food than if I was just throwing it in by the handful like I used to do. So they did really well outside. But I don't have the feed. I don't have the feeder running downstairs because even though they're indoors and the water's still fairly warm, I've reduced the amount of feed by virtue again of the water volume versus size of fish. Like again, indoor ones 2,000 gallons, outdoor ones 5,000.
Yeah.
So
But
I mean,
do have two filter systems running on that pond, though, don't you?
on the indoor one.
Yes.
Yes, yeah. So I've got the three barrels, like right now the static and the two moving bed, and then the pool filter with the K plus media in it into the shower, kind of thing. So it's all one pump, kind of thing, splitting it out. But yeah, technically it's kind of like two filter systems running on there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as I said, the sturgeons stay in there all year. So when I move the koi out, kind of thing, the water inside is always like mature water.
Yeah.
In the spring, when I move the fish outdoors, I mean, I leave the pond full all winter, kind of thing. I mean, I will do a water change in the spring and get
Yeah.
all the filters going. And I always move some media from indoors, outdoors into the easy pods to help seed them. But it does take a little bit of time for that material to mature, having sat like idle and freezing all winter long. So it's kind of like starting up the pond. Well, it is starting the pond fresh every year outdoors.
But
again, where I can move active media outside, kind of thing, and I add like live bacteria to help get it going as well. That has worked well over the years.
Yeah. It's all right. Just I am Groot's in the chat, and everyone started screaming, "I am Groot!" So anyway, on that one, I think I would like to say a massive thank you to Ken for coming. And Avery next to my two groups lately. Three of them. I know it's not related to koi. So yeah, as I was saying, I'd like to say a massive thanks to Ken for joining us at this Sunday afternoon. It's been awesome having you on, Ken.
Yep. Well, and thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for the invite. I really appreciate that.
Anytime, mate. And it's always good to have you on. And Ken has got up specially this morning to join us. So if you could go along and give our Ken a subscribe, please, that would be most appreciated. As always, guys and girls, I thank you all for joining along. Don't forget to hit the like button, smash the subscribe button if you're not. As always, guys and girls, I've been Twisted Koi. He's been Ken from My Koi Obsession. You lot out there, you know you're great, and no doubt we will see you tonight on today's video. Latest, guys. Bye bye.
Sounds good. Thanks, everybody. Take care.